Hello class, Miss Lawrence, 6AB Social Studies. This is my Unit 5, Challenge 5 project. It's done on Minecraft. So to start off, I made a map of the United States of America. Here's the homeland, and everybody, all the main seven groups that we talked about all started and moved west. The different movements that there was Florida, Louisiana Purchase, Texas, Gazdan Purchase, and Mexico, and Oregon. And the two pinks are disputed territory between the U.S. and Great Britain, which went on for a good amount of time before we purchased the land from them. And the Louisiana Purchase occurred, and the U.S. purchased it for $1 an acre or so, and it doubled the size of the U.S. of the continental U.S. And Texas was fought. It started out with a small colony, and the colony rose up, which was the Alamo, and they fought up. But then the U.S. Army got in, and we captured this area. Next, Mexico was still again fought with Mexico and taken over from them, and there was some Spain in there. Oregon, it was originally disputed territory between the U.S., Great Britain, Russia, France, and Spain. However, Russia, France, and Spain pulled out to where it was just the U.S. and Great Britain, and then we paid the price, and we bought it from Great Britain. Over here, with explorers, they went west to establish routes for settlers to start moving west. They established routes for them to go. They found good areas for them to start settling in. They created relationships with the Indians that were living there, American Indians, and overall just established routes for the settlers that were moving westward. And they just, some of them, you can say that they established journals for those that were moving west. And then next you have the mountain men, which they ran into, which were living in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. They hunted beaver for the pelts, which were worth a great deal of money. And also, they had faced many problems. Many of them faced problems such as wolf attacks, being attacked by animals, being endangered, and yeah. Influences they left behind where they left journals and maps, stories, and 49ers. 49ers were a group that went in first, and they were the first to start mining. They discovered certain things such as coal ore, quartz ore, iron ore. The one thing they were really famous for was mining gold ore. And they also used the sluice boxes, which were developed by the Chinese.
Keep moving.
Next up, the missionaries, they moved west to spread the Catholic religion. They often traveled in families. They went to the American Indians. They went to them, and basically to spread the Catholic culture. Influences they left was they did start some townships, and they started up some new religions, as I believe. Next up were the pioneer women. Pioneer women were very influential for the reason that they set up very many townships and towns that are still around today. So basically, a lot of people, they should be thankful because pioneer women, they established the towns that they are currently living in. And they also somewhat developed new techniques to live in the West. Next up were the Mormons. The Mormons were very influential for the reason that they lived, first people to settle the Great Basin. One thing that they really helped with was with the surviving in the West was they developed the very important farming techniques that were needed to farm successfully in the West. And Miss Laurence, here's your house. Next were the Chinese. The Chinese miners were fairly important because of the reason that they helped move the economy in the West forward, and they developed new mining techniques. One thing they were famous for was Chinese sluice box. Sluice boxes of this type are still in use today for gold mining because they can extract very many light ores, and basically it just acts kind of like a sifter to get out the lighter flakes and particles. Next was the Californians. Californios were a group that lived in somewhat arid areas. One of the biggest influences they had was the bringing of new architecture to people in the West, and it eventually traveled east. They used adobe, which is somewhat like clay, which can be used to create bricks. And another thing they influenced that is very important today, they introduced new foods such as jalapenos, peppers. One big one is chili. Another thing they were famous for was ranching. They ranched cattle, and they bred them, and they moved them from place to place, slaughtered them and all, and bred them, and just went on cattle runs basically. So this is my period 5, my challenge 5 project for the 7 groups and the 5 movements. 5 groups were Oregon, Mexican Cession, Gazdan Purchase, Texas, Louisiana Purchase, and the attack on Florida. The different groups were the Explorers, Mountain Men, 49ers, Missionaries, Pioneer Women, Mormons, the Chinese, and then the Californios. All these groups really contribute to things today by, one, they like the Californios, they introduced new foods for us to eat. The Chinese developed new ways for us to go mining. The Pioneer Women are very important because they set up a lot of the townships that are out in the West that we and many other people live in today. Mormons, very important because of how they set up and developed new farming techniques for us to use to basically just increase our successfulness in farming. And missionaries, important because they did leave some townships behind, and they did spread Catholic religion, turning some of the native people into our religion so that we can, if you could say it, they somewhat made the relationship between American Indians and the United States better. 49ers, they were very important in getting the economy in the West started by mining. They influenced us by finding new ores that we can use, new ores to build with, new ores to create tools, buildings, all that stuff with. And yes, this is my project. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Ryan Dunwoody signing off.